My name is Whitney Calloway, and I spent 4 years memorizing the exact words I wanted to say at my own graduation party. I never got to use them. The backyard was strung with lights I'd paid for myself, working 2 jobs through nursing school while my parents told relatives I was still figuring things out. My sister Daphne sat at the head table in a dress I knew cost more than my tuition payment that month, smiling like she'd earned a place she'd never fought for. Dad stood up first, champagne in hand, and the yard went quiet. He looked right at me. "You didn't deserve this success. Your sister did." I felt my face go hot, but I didn't move. Mom nodded like she'd been waiting her whole life for permission to say it. "She's always been the golden child. Not like you." 40 people heard that. 40 people watched me smile anyway. I raised my glass, steady as anything I'd ever done.
Great.
"Then she can pay your mortgage too." I set the glass down before anyone could answer. And then my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize, 3 words that would unravel everything. "We need you." I almost silenced it. Instead, I stepped past the folding chairs, past my aunt's pitying eyes, into the kitchen where the noise of my own party turned to static behind a closing door. The voice on the line introduced herself as Patricia Hale, attorney for my grandmother's estate. I hadn't spoken to Grandma Ruth in 11 years. Not since my parents decided she was too difficult and stopped visiting, taking me and Daphne with them whether we wanted to go or not. "Ms. Calloway," Patricia said, "your grandmother passed away Tuesday. She left specific instructions. She wanted you to know before the will is read." My hand found the counter. "Know what?" "That everything goes to you. The house, the accounts, the business holdings. Conditionally." I heard Dad's laugh through the door, performing for the guests like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just gutted me in front of everyone I loved. "Conditionally how?" I asked. "She left a letter. She said you'd understand once you read it." She also said, Patricia paused like she didn't quite believe her own words. "She said your sister isn't allowed within 100 feet of any of it." I sat down on the cold tile floor and started laughing, the kind that turns into something else halfway through. I didn't tell anyone that night. I went back outside, finished my own party with a smile stitched on so tight my jaw ached, and let my parents believe they'd won. 3 days later, I drove 2 hours to the lawyer's office alone, the radio off, my hands steady on the wheel in a way that surprised me. Patricia Hale was younger than I expected, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who didn't waste words. She slid an envelope across the desk before we even sat down. Grandma Ruth's handwriting, the same loops she used to teach me cursive with on her back porch when I was 7 and nobody else wanted me around. "Whitney, I watched what your parents did to you for years and said nothing because I thought silence was kindness. It wasn't. It was cowardice, and I'm done with it now that I'm past consequences." My throat closed. I kept reading. "Everything I have is yours. Not because you're better than Daphne. Because you're the only one who ever visited me without being told to, and the only one who never asked me for anything." Patricia watched my face carefully.
"There's more," she said.
"The conditional part. Your parents don't know about the house yet, but they will. And when they find out what's inside it." She stopped herself. "You should see it before I say anything else." The house sat at the end of a gravel road I hadn't driven in over a decade, paint peeling, porch sagging, exactly as forgotten as Grandma Ruth had been. Patricia handed me a key that still had a piece of yarn tied to it, the same yarn Grandma used so she'd never lose it in her purse. Inside, dust covered everything except one room. The study door had a new lock, installed recently, and behind it sat a fireproof filing cabinet that didn't match the rest of the worn furniture. "She had this installed 8 months ago," Patricia said, "after she found out about the loans." "What loans?" Patricia exhaled like she'd been carrying this answer too long. "Your parents borrowed against your name. 3 times. A car for Daphne, a kitchen renovation, a vacation to Cancun. They used your social security number, your credit history, while telling everyone you were the disappointment." The room tilted. I'd spent 2 years confused why my credit score made no sense, why a debt collector once called asking about a Lexus I'd never owned. I'd assumed it was a mistake. I'd apologized to the collector. "Grandma found the paperwork," Patricia continued. She'd been quietly tracking it. She wanted you to have proof before you decided what to do with it. I opened the cabinet with hands that didn't feel like mine anymore. You said, "Next." Inside were folders labeled in Grandma's neat handwriting, dates, account numbers, copies of forged signatures that weren't even close to mine. She'd built a paper trail like she was preparing for a trial nobody else knew was coming. I sat on the dusty floor of that study for 3 hours, reading every page. The Lexus loan, $38,000, my name, my social, a signature with a loop in the W, I never make. The kitchen renovation, $52,000, same story. The Cancun trip Daphne posted about for 2 weeks straight, caption blessed, paid for with a credit line opened in my name while I was studying for board exams, surviving on ramen and 4 hours of sleep. Patricia found me there at dusk. There's a statute of limitations question, she said gently, but identity theft within family lines is still prosecutable in this state. I've seen it done. Prosecutable, I repeated, testing the word like it belonged to someone braver than me. You don't have to decide tonight, but I already had. Something Grandma Ruth wrote came back to me, the only one who never asked me for anything, and I understood for the first time that being good to people doesn't protect you from them.
I called my sister that night.
She picked up laughing, already half drunk on champagne that wasn't hers to drink. Whitney, where'd you disappear to at the party? I didn't laugh back. I need you to come to Grandma Ruth's old house tomorrow, I said. Bring Mom and Dad. The laughing stopped. Why would we do that? You know we don't go there. Because I found something that belongs to all of us, I said, and let the silence do the rest of the work. She showed up at noon the next day, Mom and Dad trailing behind her like she was still the one leading the family somewhere worth going. Dad eyed the peeling porch like it personally offended him. Mom's mouth was already arranged into the expression she used when she expected an apology she hadn't earned. I let them sit in the study before I said anything. I let them see the filing cabinet, watched Dad's face do something complicated when he recognized it. Grandma left everything to me, I said. The house, the accounts, the business holdings. All of it. Daphne's smile cracked first. That's not, she wouldn't. She also left me this. I set the folder on the table between us. The loan documents fanned out like a hand of cards I'd been dealt without asking. Dad's face went the color of old paper. Mom reached for the folder, and I pulled it back before her fingers touched it. Don't, I said. You don't get to touch it until you explain it. Dad found his voice first, the one he always used when he was about to make something my fault. We were going to pay it back. It was temporary, Whitney. You didn't even notice. I noticed, I said. I just didn't know it was you. Mom's hands twisted in her lap. Your credit was better than ours. You weren't using it. We needed help and you were always so independent, we thought. You thought I wouldn't find out, or you thought I wouldn't matter enough to be angry about it. My voice didn't shake. I'd practiced this moment without knowing I was practicing it. Every night, I lay awake wondering why collection calls kept finding me. Daphne hadn't said a word. She stared at the Cancun statement like it might rearrange itself into something forgivable. I'm not pressing charges, I said, and watched relief flood 3 faces at once before I finished.
Yet.
I'm giving you 90 days to repay every dollar, in writing, through Patricia. If you don't, the folder goes to the district attorney. You'd really do that to your own family? Mom's voice cracked on family like the word still meant something to her. You did it first, I said. You just used my name to do it quietly. Dad stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. This house should have been split between both daughters. I looked at him steady. Grandma disagreed. Ask her why. They left without the folder. Daphne lingered at the door longest, and for 1 second I saw something true cross her face. Not guilt exactly, but the dawning math of a girl realizing the favoritism she'd ridden her whole life had a price tag, and I was the one who'd been paying it. The 90 days came and went. They repaid every dollar, wired in silence through Patricia's office, no apology attached because some people only know how to speak in consequences, never in remorse. I didn't chase the apology. I'd stopped needing it somewhere around the 3rd loan statement. I sold the Cancun photos a strange kind of peace, not forgiveness, just distance, the kind that lets you breathe. I kept Grandma Ruth's house. I fixed the porch first, then the study, and turned her fireproof cabinet into a bookshelf for the nursing journals I'd once been too tired to read. I hung a photo of her on the wall, where she could watch me build something steady from what she'd left behind. Daphne and I speak twice a year now, careful and polite, like strangers who once shared a childhood. My parents call on holidays. I answer sometimes. I didn't get revenge that night at my graduation party. I got the truth, and then I got to choose what I built with it. That was enough.